The automotive industry has created thousands of cars over more than a century, but only a few transcend metal, power, and speed. There are cars that aren't just driven, they're felt, they are respected, and they are remembered. They are vehicles that changed the rules, broke the mold, or defined an entire era. Cars that, through their design, engineering, engine, or history, developed something impossible to measure in numbers: aura. In this video, we'll explore the top 10 cars with the most aura in automotive history, from modern legends to icons that redefined the automobile forever. The year doesn't matter. The brand doesn't matter. Not even the price. Here, only one thing matters: what that car caused in the world when it appeared. Buckle up, because this isn't a top 10 list of fast cars. It's a top 10 list of legends.
Before we begin, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay up to date with every event in this lovely community.
The BMW M3 E46 was born in 2000, a pivotal moment for the Bavarian brand. BMW wasn't just looking to improve upon its predecessor, but to create the perfect balance between a road car and a race car. And without realizing it at the time, they were giving birth to one of the most respected sports cars in modern history. Under the hood, the M3 E46 boasted a naturally aspirated 3.2-liter inline six-cylinder engine, codenamed S54, capable of delivering 343 horsepower and 365 Newton-meters of torque. It accelerated from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4.8 seconds, with an electronically limited top speed of 250 kilometers per hour. Although without the limiter, it could exceed 280 kilometers per hour. It was available with a 6-speed manual transmission or with the famous SMG2, a sequential gearbox ahead of its time. Technically, it was a masterpiece. Balanced chassis, rear-wheel drive, limited slip differential, near-perfect weight distribution, and steering that transmitted every millimeter of the asphalt. It didn't need turbos, giant screens, or artificial driving modes. Everything felt pure, mechanical, and direct. But the aura of the E46 M3 doesn't come solely from its numbers. It comes from how it felt to drive. It was a car that rewarded the driver, that demanded respect and skill, and that could be used every day. It was comfortable, but dangerous in the wrong hands. Refined, but brutal when pushed. Historically, the E46 became the last naturally aspirated six-cylinder M3 before the saga entered the V8 era and then the turbo era. Over time, this transformed it into a symbol of a lost era, where engineering prioritized sensations over emissions or marketing figures. Today, the BMW M3 E46 is considered by many to be the best M3 ever created, not for being the fastest, but for being the most honest. A car that didn't try to impress, and yet it did so on every corner. That's why it's on this list, because its aura doesn't come from excess. It comes from the perfect balance between soul, machine, and driver.
The Nissan GT-R R34 was born in 1999, at a time when Japan was seeking to prove to the world that engineering could triumph over European tradition. It wasn't created to be beautiful or luxurious. It was created to be unstoppable. From its launch, the R34 became the most refined and aggressive evolution of the Skyline GT-R saga, a line already renowned for being feared on racetracks and streets alike. Under the hood lived the legendary RB26 DETT engine, a 2.6-liter twin-turbocharged inline-six.
Officially rated at 280 horsepower due to Japan's power limiting agreement, it far exceeded that figure. It was paired with a 6-speed manual transmission and an A-TESA ETS Pro all-wheel drive system, capable of intelligently distributing power between both axles. It also featured rear-wheel steering, Brembo brakes, and a tuning designed specifically for high performance. Technically, the R34 was a monster ahead of its time. It accelerated from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in around 5 seconds, had a rigid chassis, precise suspension, and a balance that made it lethal both on the track and on the road. But beyond the numbers, what truly made it special was its modifiability. The RB26 became famous for handling enormous amounts of power without losing reliability, turning the GTR into a legend of tuning and illegal street racing. The R34's aura wasn't built solely on the racetrack, but also in popular culture. Its appearance in video games like Gran Turismo, in movies like Fast and Furious, and its association with legendary drivers and tuners elevated it to an almost mythical status. It was nicknamed Godzilla because it effortlessly destroyed far more expensive European sports cars, humiliating brands that had dominated automotive prestige for decades. Historically, the R34 marked the end of an era. It was the last Skyline GTR before Nissan separated the GTR name as a standalone model. That automatically made it a symbol of farewell, of absolute culmination. It represents the pinnacle of analog Japanese engineering before electronics and digitalization took over. The Nissan GTR R34 has an aura because it didn't ask permission to become a legend, because it was born to compete, to win, and to break rules, because it became a global icon without the need for luxury or artificial exclusivity, and because, even today, more than 2 decades later, it remains one of the most respected, desired, and feared cars in automotive history.
The Lamborghini Countach appeared in 1974 and not only changed the Lamborghini brand, it forever changed how the world imagined a supercar. In an era dominated by flowing lines and sleek designs, the Countach burst onto the scene like something completely alien. It didn't look like a car from the future. It looked like a car that had arrived from another planet. Designed by Marcello Gandini for Bertone, the Countach introduced a completely new visual language. Straight lines, aggressive angles, extreme proportions, and a low, wide silhouette broke with everything that had been seen before. It was also the model that popularized scissor doors, an element that became a symbol not only of Lamborghini, but of the entire concept of the exotic supercar. Technically, the Countach featured a naturally aspirated V12 engine mounted longitudinally in the rear, something very uncommon at the time. In its earlier versions, the engine was a 4.0-liter, producing around 375 horsepower, coupled to a 5-speed manual transmission. It wasn't an easy car to drive. It had limited visibility, heavy steering, and extreme ergonomics. But it wasn't created for comfort. It was created to be impactful. Its performance was impressive for the 1970s. It exceeded 300 kilometers per hour in its most powerful versions and offered a raw, mechanical, and brutal experience. Every drive was a battle between driver and machine, something that reinforced its wild character. The Countach didn't adapt to the driver had to adapt to the Countach. The Countach's aura was born from its ability to evoke immediate emotions. It became the definitive poster of the 1970s and 80s. Hanging on the walls of millions of rooms around the world, it represented the ultimate dream of speed, rebellion, and excess. It didn't matter if you would never drive it. Just seeing it was enough to feel something different. Historically, the Countach saved Lamborghini from disappearing. In difficult financial times, this model kept the brand alive for more than a decade, constantly evolving until the 1990s. Furthermore, it laid the foundation for the modern Lamborghini DNA: extravagance, extreme design, and uncompromising V12 engines. Without the Countach, models like the Diablo, the Murciélago, or the Aventador wouldn't exist. The Lamborghini Countach has an aura because it didn't try to please everyone, because it defied the norms of automotive design, because it transformed excess into identity, and because, even today, it remains one of the most recognizable and radical cars ever created.
It wasn't just a car. It was a declaration of war against convention.
The Porsche 911 was born in 1964. And unlike many legendary cars, its aura stems not from groundbreaking innovation, but from constant refinement. From its very first appearance, the 911 was a technical and conceptual anomaly. While the world was moving toward front engines and conventional configurations, Porsche chose to persist with a seemingly incorrect idea: a boxer engine mounted behind the rear axle. That rear-mounted engine defined its character. It made the 911 a difficult car to master, but incredibly rewarding for those who learned to drive it well. It was not a car that forgave mistakes, and precisely for that reason, it became a tool of precision. The 911 wasn't driven, it was studied. Every corner demanded respect, and every acceleration rewarded with a direct connection between driver and machine. Technically, the first Porsche 911 featured a 2-liter air-cooled 6-cylinder boxer engine that produced around 130 horsepower. It may seem modest today, but its low weight, balance, and mechanical responsiveness made it an exceptional sports car for its time. With a manual transmission and a handling-focused setup, the 911 offered something few cars could match: pure character. Over the decades, the 911 evolved without losing its essence. Turbo, Carrera, RS, GT3, each generation refined the original concept without betraying it. Few cars in history have maintained such a recognizable silhouette for over 60 years. At first glance, a 1964 911 and a modern one still share the same visual and emotional DNA. Historically, the Porsche 911 is one of the most successful cars in motorsport. It has dominated rallies, circuits, and endurance races like the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It wasn't designed as a race car, but it ended up becoming one of the most successful of all time. That duality, road car and racing machine, elevated its status to something almost untouchable. The aura of the Porsche 911 lies in its consistency, in its ability to defy logic and demonstrate, time and again, that a well-executed idea can survive time, trends, and technology. It's not the most powerful, nor the most eye-catching, nor the most radical, but it is the purest. The Porsche 911 didn't need to reinvent itself to be timeless. It only needed to be true to itself. And in automotive history, that's a kind of aura that very few have achieved.
The Dodge Viper appeared in 1992 as a direct provocation to the entire automotive industry. It wasn't created to be comfortable, refined, or accessible. It was designed with a single mission: to bring pure brutality back to American sports cars. In an era when electronics were beginning to soften the driving experience, the Viper arrived as a savage reminder of what it meant to truly master a car. From its inception, the Viper was extreme. It had no electronic aids, no traction control, no stability control, and in its earlier versions, it didn't even have real windows, a fixed roof, or conventional door handles. It was a car without filters. Everything it did head-on, without asking permission. Its heart was the real scandal: an 8-liter V10 engine derived from a truck block developed with the help of Lamborghini, which at the time belonged to Chrysler. This engine produced around 400 horsepower and colossal torque, delivered instantly and without hesitation. The 6-speed manual transmission made every shift feel like a declaration of war against the asphalt. Technically, the Dodge Viper was as simple as it was intimidating. Tubular chassis, lightweight body, rear-wheel drive, and a weight distribution that demanded expert hands. It wasn't a car for just anyone. In fact, it quickly gained a reputation for being dangerous, unpredictable, and ruthless with inexperienced drivers. And that reputation didn't weaken it. It made it a legend. Historically, the Viper also made its mark in racing. It dominated endurance categories and achieved multiple Le Mans victories in its class,
proving that it wasn't just an over-the-top muscle car, but a machine capable of competing with the European elite. Seeing a Viper take on and beat Ferrari and Porsche reinforced its international aura. The Dodge Viper's aura stems from its brutal honesty. It doesn't try to please, it doesn't seek consensus, it doesn't adopt. It's a car that demands respect and punishes mistakes. Driving it isn't a comfortable experience, it's a challenge. And precisely for that reason, it became one of the most feared and respected sports cars in history. The Dodge Viper wasn't created for everyone. It was created for those who wanted to feel fear and enjoy it. And in an increasingly controlled world, that makes it an icon with an eternal aura.